Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a truly fascinating, honestly kind of mind-bending piece of literature from 2026. It's a poetry collection by Karen Hull titled Winters and Splinters. Now, on the surface, Hull writes these simple, folksy AABB rhyme schemes. They honestly almost read like nursery rhymes. But beneath that totally accessible surface, well, she is meticulously mapping out a highly esoteric, super fringe worldview. We're talking everything from total digital surveillance to invisible psychic entities that literally farm human emotions. It is a dense, wild ride, so let's just jump right in and break it down. Here's our roadmap for today. First up, welcome to the Panopticon. Second, illusions, clones, and elites. Third, the Gnostic soul trap. Fourth, warnings of impending collapse. And finally, finding the divine spark. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, welcome to the Panopticon, the digital cage. To really get Howell's poetry, you first have to grasp her absolute deep skepticism toward the screens we stare at all day long. Listen to this. All of your dollars and cents controlled by a digital fence, where technology's the key to imprisoning you and me. This perfectly captures that jarring juxtaposition I mentioned earlier. You've got this bouncy, rhythmic cadence, sense, fence, key, me, but it's delivering a dead serious warning about absolute digital imprisonment. For her, modern conveniences, yeah, they aren't gifts, they're traps. So, what does she actually mean by the panopticon? In her writings, the panopticon is this looming, inescapable system of total surveillance and social credit. According to the author, those handheld devices we carry around voluntarily, they're actually building our digital cages. She calls out systems like Palantir, warning that these devices are actively creating our digital twins. In her view, it effectively turns everyday citizens into indentured servants who literally can't stray far from the system without having their access completely restricted. It's a view of technology not as this amazing tool for freedom, but as a rigid mechanism to force compliance. Moving right along to Section 2, illusions, clones, and elites, the grand deception. Now, her skepticism goes way, way beyond just data privacy or smartphone addiction. In Hull's worldview, the manipulation isn't just digital. We're talking about a total manipulation of reality itself. And the breadth of her skepticism toward history and pop culture is absolutely immense. For instance, Hull asserts that famous figures from Tom Cruise all the way back to William Shakespeare are actually clones used to control public output. She writes that Jim Carrey, well, he's a clone used as an AI test for public enragement. She dismisses the 9/11 box cutters narrative as a public psyop, a nuanced lie. She even questions the sinking of the Titanic. She calls it a gigantic manufactured myth designed to tap into our collective belief. And the puppet masters orchestrating all of this? A 33-level secret society pushing a new world order. She really leaves no historical stone unturned here. This next quote is where we take a hard pivot from earthly political conspiracies to the darker, cosmic forces the author believes are actually pulling the strings. She writes, "The illusion is you're a free man, but you really worship a demon." So she's implying that the politicians, the actors, the elites, they aren't the top of the pyramid. Not even close. They're basically just middle management for something much, much darker. The crucial concept to understand here is the demiurge. Now, in Gnostic and esoteric traditions, the demiurge is usually seen as a lesser, flawed, or outright malevolent creator of the physical world. Hulse takes this term and uses it to describe a systemic, pervasive force that promotes the absolute worst traits of society. She asserts that if you want to rise to the top of our societal ladder, you basically have to imitate this dark force. That means embracing grifting, sadism, shape-shifting, and even the exploitation of minors. She views the entire material power structure of our world as fundamentally demonic. Which brings us to Section 3, the Gnostic soul trap, resources to be mined. So you might be wondering, if the world is just an illusion controlled by dark forces, what's the point? Why do these cosmic forces care about humans at all? Well, let this bizarre little verse set the stage. The archons aren't creators. They can put ideas in your head, and you'll do it for them instead. Here, Huli is breaking down the actual mechanics of how we are manipulated by unseen entities. Notice they don't force us. They just quietly implant ideas, and then we do the heavy lifting for them. And here is exactly why they do it. There are two fringe internet concepts completely central to Howell's poetry: archons and louche. Archons are described as these parasitic entities from hidden realms. But because they aren't creators themselves, they literally need a food source to survive. Enter louche. Loosh is a term used in fringe circles to describe the energetic resonance generated by human fear, negativity, and intense emotion. So the author views humanity not as everyday citizens, but essentially as energetic livestock. The idea is that we are intentionally kept stressed, indebted, and angry just so we constantly generate this loosh to feed our invisible masters. So you can see this core duality running through the entire book, the demonic system on one side versus the divine spark on the other. On the material side, you have the chains, constant debt, addictive cell phones, artificial intelligence, and even the endless trap of reincarnation, literally recycling souls just to be farmed all over again. But on the flip side, you have the incredible spiritual heights she believes humans are actually capable of. Things like telepathic communication, maintaining an upright posture to act as a literal lightning rod for God's signal, and the profound realization of our eternal, unbreakable consciousness. It's this incredibly stark contrast between our physical prison and our potential spiritual freedom. All right, Section 4, Warnings of Impending Collapse, the AI Beast.
Now, Hoole absolutely does not believe the current system is sustainable. Shifting away from spiritual philosophy and into some very direct prophetic warnings, she maps out a highly specific timeline for the downfall of modern society. And she points to the year 1995 as the ultimate catalyst. She literally writes that life took a dive in 1995 with the advent of Windows 95 and the birth of the consumer internet. She links that exact moment directly to the end of the world as we know it. Looking ahead, she predicts that by the year 2030, a total surveillance state will be 100% completed and enforced by robotic police. And then, just 2 years after that, in 2032, she foresees a massive impending cataclysm. She specifically cites a shifting of the Earth's crust that's going to wipe out entire coastlines, which will then allow a silicon-based AI lifeform to just fully take over. As a key indicator that this collapse is already happening right now, she frequently points to financial markets. $5,000. That is the author's predicted price for a single ounce of gold. She claims that as the US dollar completely fails and the empire goes into the steep, unrecoverable decline, precious metals are going to skyrocket. And for her, that's the ultimate signal that the systemic collapse has fully taken hold.
Finally, Section 5, Finding the Divine Spark, Escaping the Matrix.
Okay, I know that was a whole lot of doom and gloom. But the good news is Hoole does actually offer a way out. This is the ascent portion of her narrative where she explores her spiritual coping mechanisms. I want to share this genuinely uplifting stanza with you. Because it won't fear it, when you're a free spirit. The core message here is that despite all the surveillance, the archons, the impending AI collapse, Hoole maintains that the human soul is immortal. Once you wake up and realize you are an eternal being, the fear, that loosh the system so desperately needs to feed on, it just dries up entirely. So how do we actually get there? What's the takeaway for you and me? Well, here is the author's specific, actionable advice for surviving the matrix. Step 1. Become an empty cup and declutter your life. You literally have to get rid of your material and emotional baggage so that the divine actually has room to fill you up. Step 2. Maintain a degree of obedience to higher spiritual laws. And this is a big one. Literally eat good, clean ingredients. She says we have to reject the processed foods that the system uses to keep us docile. And step 3, keep your eyes upon the higher. You have to consciously redirect your anger and ire toward positive spiritual growth. By doing that, you're essentially starving the parasitic system of its negative energy. Personal evolution, she argues, is literally the only true escape route. Which leaves us right here. We've gone from the darkest depths of the Panopticon all the way to the heights of esoteric spiritualism found in Winters and Splinters. It is such a complex, challenging worldview, and it's all presented through these deceptively simple, folksy rhymes. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought that really sums up the whole duality of this text. In the face of an increasingly digital and controlled world, will you remain a resource for the system, or will you reclaim your divine spark? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating material with me today. Keep asking those big questions and keep learning. Catch you next time.